Hello everyone, welcome to the second week of learning how to create a motion graphics design, and also it's the day 2 of learning how to use Adobe After Effects. So I'm going to launch Adobe After Effects now so we can get started immediately. In today's class, you are going to learn how to create mask and how to use the pen tool to extract an object from a layer. You're also going to learn how to use the track matte to hide or reveal a layer. So at the end, we are going to achieve a simple effect on our composition, and we are going to apply keyframes also to achieve this effect. So right now, I'm going to create a new project by clicking on this button right here. And the next thing I want to do is to create a new composition by clicking on new composition. All right, so I'm going to give this composition a name. So what we want to do is we want to create a mask, and at the same time we want to create a track matte. So I'm going to give it mask, and then under the basic settings, I'm going to change to I'm going to select the preset that says HDTV 1080-25, like we used to have in the other class. And then you are going to leave the width as 1920 by 1080 for the width and the height. The frame rate set to 25 frames per second, and also we are going to leave the duration as 10. That's 10 seconds. So if you like, you can increase the composition length, the duration of your composition if you want, but for this class, we'll leave it at 10 seconds. So I'm going to click OK now. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to import the image to work with. So we are going to work with a single image to achieve the purpose of this class. So let's go to File and then Import File to import the image. So I'll go to the folder where the image is saved. I'll select the image and then click Open. So I have the image imported into After Effects now. So the next thing I want to do is I want to drag this image to the composition area. So remember, we have named our composition mask, and that's what you can see here under Project Panel. So I'm going to click on the image now and then drag to the composition area. All right, so this is the image we want to work with today. So the next thing I want to do is to resize this image to make sure that it fits into the composition window, the screen. Now, if you notice these 2 points on the 2 sides of the screen, that's the width of the image. So what is showing right now is the image is showing outside of the composition screen. So that means the image is larger than the composition we created. If you remember, the composition we created has a width of 1920 by 1080. So that is, let's check the size of the image we dragged into the composition area. So come to the project panel, select the image, and you can see the info of the image here. So the width of the image we have now is 2048 by 1365. This is to show you that it is larger than the composition settings we have created. So what you are going to do in this case is to resize. And how do you resize? Come back to the composition area, select the image layer, and then right click on it. Now you can see various options, but under these various options, you can see a menu that says transform. So go to transform, and then you should play with fit to comp height and fit to comp width. So I'll show you briefly what fit to comp width and fit to comp height is. So first, we are going to select fit to comp height. The reason we are seeing this is because the width and the height of the image is not the same with the composition frame size. So because we told the image layer to fit to comb height, so it will fit at the top and at the bottom of the image, which is where the height of the composition screen is, that is from here to here. So it will fit on the top and it would not regard the width of the screen. So that means it will only regard the height of the image and fit it to the screen. So the other option we are going to try now, if you right click on the image, then go to transform menu and then click on fit to comb width. Now you can see the image on the two sides can now fit to the composition screen on the side. But meanwhile, if you pay attention closely to the image, it doesn't fit to the height anymore. Though that is what we want, but in your case, you might want to change to whatever you want. So I'm going to maximize this screen now so you can see what is happening clearly. So to maximize the screen, just take the mouse close to the composition screen name above here. Once the mouse has changed to what you can see now, you can then double click. So it will expand the screen, the composition monitor. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to extract this object from the image we have. Now, how do we do that? That's where the pen tool comes in. So the pen tool is used to mask an object from a layer. So masking means you want to extract a layer from, you want to extract an object from a layer, or you could also use a mask to reveal or hide a layer or an object in your composition. So let's start with the pen tool first. So to select the pen tool, go to the tool section at the top, and then you can see the pen tool. So click on the pen tool or press G on the keyboard to select the pen tool quickly. So now that I have the pen tool selected, I want to mask this object to extract it from the image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in so I can see clearly on the part that I want to extract. I want to extract this boy from the image we have. So to zoom in to this picture, what you are going to do is come down to the down part here, where you can see a figure that says 55.8%. In my own case, it could be any figure at your hand. So once you get to it, it says magnification ratio pop up. So click on the drop down arrow and then try to zoom down or scale down on the screen size. So now I'm going to select 33%. So selecting 33% reduced the composition screen size, so you can see the activity that is happening here. But meanwhile, I want to scale it up. So I'm going to click again and then select 100%. So you can choose 200% or whatever percentage that fits to your screen or to what you can see clearly. So I'll select 100% now. Okay. So I want to start extracting. So I'm going to use the pen tool. As you can see that the mouse is still having the pen tool active from above here. All right. So first thing I want to do is to make sure I position this image properly after zooming in. So to position it, I'm going to select the hand tool from the tools section. So you can use the shortcut H on the keyboard to select the hand tool quickly. So now I have the hand tool selected and I'll click on the screen, then drag. Okay, so I can see from the top now. Now I want to start using the pen tool. So let me select the pen tool again. Then you can start from any point, but I wish to start from this point right now. Then I'll start clicking to extract the part that I want. So this method might take time, but you just have to do it to be able to extract your object very quickly. So I've selected the hand tool now just to move the screen up a little bit. So now I'll select the pen tool again, then continue with my custom mask. So the masking is going to take time, but meanwhile you have to be patient because you already know what you want to achieve. And you can also mask an object roughly. It doesn't have to be precise. It depends on what you want to achieve. In this case, we really don't want to make the extraction a very clean one. So let's just continue clicking. If you want to extract, if you want to make sure your extraction is perfect, then you should try and zoom in on the scale. You should try and zoom in on the scale here to maybe 200% or something bigger, so you can see clearly on what you are zooming in on. So let me return to the pen tool now and then continue to mask. Now there's one other thing that you may come across while you are using the pen tool. So now let's assume I'm trying to use the pen tool, and at any point in time I just go back to the selection tool, click anywhere on the screen, then I return to the pen tool again. Now see what will happen. If I continue with my masking, notice that the mask I started with has changed and it's not linking to the first one that I have created, and it has also created a new color. So this is to show that this is a different mask that is creating on the object that I have. So what you would do in this case, let me delete this blue mask I have just created. What you can do in this case is you have to click on the last point you created when you where you left off. So the last point you created, click on it, then continue with the masking. Then it will be linked together. So let's quickly create our mask now, so we don't waste much time on extracting the object. So let's just do it roughly so it doesn't take too much of our time. So select the H key on the keyboard to change to the hand tool and drag the screen around. Then select G to return to the pen tool and then continue with the masking. Now, there's something going to happen here. Now, what's going to happen is I've gotten to where I started creating the mask with the pen tool. So you need to close the point. So this point that we have right now, we should click on the point where the mask started from. So by doing this, we will be able to extract this object from the background. If you don't do that, it will not be extracted. So click on the point where you started from and the object will be extracted just like this, as you can see. So I'm going to return to fit up to 100% so you can see clearly. Now we have successfully extracted this image, this object from the image we imported into After Effects. But meanwhile, we need to clean up what we have done. So cleaning it up means there's still somewhere around there that we need to extract. And how do we do this? If you notice, the extraction did not take place on this part, but we need to remove it. Now to remove it, let's go back to 100% again. And then while still on the pen tool, I'm going to create mask again with the pen tool by clicking on the part we want to extract here. So I'll continue to click now, and you can see that the pen tool has created a new mask color. So this mask I'm creating now is different from the yellow one we have just created. So this mask will help us to extract, will help us to remove this part from our extraction. All right, so I'm going to close the point again to allow the little parts to be removed. All right, now I have closed that point, but meanwhile, the masking we have just done here is not taken away, unlike the first one we did. Now, what just happened is because we have created two masks. In After Effects, when you create two different masks on a layer, you have to do a mathematics that will help you to remove the one you don't want and leave the one you want. So what I'm trying to say is you have to select the name of the layer. Remember to return to the selection tool, then select the name of the layer, and then the arrow on the left side, click to open the arrow on the left side, and you can see the mask that we have just created. So if you click on the arrow close to the mask, you can see the two masks that we created. One is the yellow color and the other one is the pink color. Now what just happened here right now is because the mask on the first mask has a add option that you can see here, and then the mask on the second mask has a hard option too that you can also see here. So what we want to do is to remove this second mask, which is in pink, from this object we have. So to do that, you have to go to the option you can see in front of the mask that you want to remove, and click on the drop down arrow, and then you can see various options. The one that is selected by default is the add. So what we want to do is to use the subtract option. So the subtract will help us to remove the mask tool, which is the pink mask we have created here from the object. So once I click on subtract now, you can see that the part, little part that we have marked out has been taken off from the object. So there's still a part that we can remove if you look closely, but we don't have the time to start doing that now. So we can also remove this little part from the object. So if you have an image that has a lot of parts to be taken off, this is the method you are going to use. So you are going to mask each part and close the point you started from. Then come to the mask property. You can see under the layer that you masked. Then create a subtract option for that part, and it will be removed from the object. So now let us continue. So the next thing we want to do now is to remove this yellow and pink mask you can see on the screen. It's creating a distraction. We don't need it anymore. So what you can do in that case is come to the composition screen area you can see here, and you see this blue option that is selected. You have to disable it, and that option is saying toggle mask and shape path visibility. So once you toggle it off, it will remove the visibility of the mask part that you can see now, just like this. Now the next thing we want to do is to duplicate this layer that we have just created, which is this layer that we have just extracted. We want to duplicate it. So to duplicate, you have various ways of duplicating. One of the options that you have to duplicate is select the layer, then go to edit, and then you can see duplicate, and the shortcut is Command D, or you can use Control D on the Windows keyboard. So once I select this option now, it will duplicate the layer. So we are going to try other options of duplicating maybe later in the class. So now the reason we are duplicating this layer is because we want to return the full image. We want it to show up again. So I'm going to select this image, the layer that we have at the downside now, then click on the arrow on the left side to reveal the properties. Then I'm going to click on the mask, the name of the mask that we have on that layer, and then delete it. So deleting it will return the image to what we already have. So next thing we want to do is to differentiate between these two layers, because now if you look at the name is identical. So we want to rename the two layers. To rename your layers, you have to select the layer you want to rename, then hit enter on the keyboard. You will be able to edit the name of the layer. So what we want to do now is give this layer a name like this, extract. All right, so we're also going to give the second layer a name, and I've selected the layer now. I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard, then name it BG for background, and then hit enter to save it. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to be able to differentiate BG layer from extract layer in the composition screen. Now we have two layers, but you cannot see because they are the same image, but we have extracted something from one of them. Now, for you to understand what I'm saying, if you look at the icons on the left side of the two layers, the eye icon, once you toggle it off from the layer on the downside, you can see that the extract is still there. But because we have the two images similar to each other, you will not notice that. So we need to be able to differentiate between these two layers from the screen, not from the layer section from the screen. So now that I have the BG layer selected, I'm going to apply an effect. So the effect will help us to differentiate the background layer from the extract layer. So to add an effect, go to the top menu you can see here that says effect. Click and then you see various effects that you can apply to your composition layers. Or you can also go to the panel on the right side here where you can see effect and presets. So if you cannot see effect and presets now, just go to the top menu where you can see window and then look for effects and presets to make it show up just like this. All right, so I'm going to use the top menu here. Make sure you have the layer selected, because if you don't have it selected, you can see from what we have here, everything is disabled. So let's select the layer and then make sure that this blue line is surrounding the composition panel. Then come back to effects and then let's look for color correction, and under color correction I'm going to apply tint. Tint and black and white that you can see here will give you almost the same results, but black and white is just black and white. Tint can be adjusted a little bit to give you black and white and something else. So I'm going to use tint. All right, so now that I've applied the tint effect on the background, you can see that we are able to differentiate the background from the other layer that we named extract. So let's continue. Now the next thing we want to do is to begin to add effects to the extract layer. So the first effect we want to add to the extract layer is a stroke effect. So you go to the menu, the effect menu at the top, then locate generate effects, and then under generate you can see stroke. Okay, now we have added the stroke, but you might not see clearly until I adjust the value a little bit. So now that we have added the stroke effect, if you look on this panel here, you can see effect controls, and the layer that we are working on is extract. So make sure you have effect controls available as a panel within your After Effects workspace. And if you can't see it, come to window and then look for effect controls. You can see it here, effect controls. So have it selected, and then this is the stroke effect that we have just added. So I'm going to increase the brush size of the stroke a little bit, maybe let's say 7. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so 7 is okay for now. And we are also going to add one more effect to this extract layer, and that effect can be applied if you come to the composition area. So select the name of the layer you want to apply this effect, right click on it, then you will see an option that says layer styles. So under layer styles, there are various styles you can apply to your layer, but in this case we want to use the outer glow that you can see here. So I'm going to apply the outer glow now. Okay, so even if you can't see the outer glow style very clearly, I'm going to go to the properties of the outer glow so we can adjust it and you will see clearly what is happening there. So immediately I applied the outer glow, you can see this layer styles was added to our layer, and then the outer glow can be seen under the layer style. So I'm going to click the arrow close to the outer glow so we can see the properties. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to increase the size of the outer glow. So I'm going to give it let's say 40. Yeah, so I've made the size 40, and I'm going to also add a color to the outer glow. Let me choose from, let's say, somewhere around here. Okay. All right. Then press OK. You can choose any color you want. Press OK once you are done. Now I'm going to also scroll up a little bit and then change the blend mode of the outer glow. So the blend mode by default is cream. So I want to choose overlay. Okay. Let me try linear dodge. Okay, I think I'm okay with this. So you can play with the blend mode. You can choose from the various lists you can see over here under the blend mode. So now we are done with that. We have successfully applied a stroke effect and we have applied outer glow layer style. So the next thing we want to do now is to set keyframe that will animate our extract layer. So we want to set the keyframe now. To set a keyframe, you are going to open up the properties of the layer you want to set the keyframe for. But in this case, if we decide to open up the property using the properties using the arrow you can see here, then we are going to see a lot of properties to work with, and it's going to cause a distraction. So while you have the arrow hiding the properties, select the layer and use a shortcut. That's if you know the exact property you want to set keyframe for. So in this case, I know what I want to set the keyframe for, which is the position and the scale. So the first one we want to set keyframe for is the scale. So to quickly select the scale properties and reveal it, you have to press the letter S on the keyboard. As you can see now, we can see the scale of this layer, the scale property of this layer. So we want to work on the keyframe. Now, the first thing you want to do is to enable the stopwatch that is close to the name of the property, which is the option you can see here. So once you click, it will set a keyframe. Let me move the line forward a little bit so you can see. Now, this is the keyframe that we have successfully created. So I'm going to move the line forward maybe to about 5 seconds, then set another keyframe. But I'm not going to use the stopwatch to create the second keyframe. I'm going to use the option you can see here that says add or remove keyframe at current time. So once you click, it will create the second keyframe for you. Now, the reason we are creating these two keyframes without adjusting the value first is because we want our keyframe to have the default value of scale before we adjust at any keyframe that we want. So what we want to do now is we want to adjust the scale properties on this keyframe, not the first keyframe. So that means the first keyframe, we have this default value that you can see now, and then click go to next keyframe to go to the next keyframe, and then we want to set the scale value to 110. You can set to what you want depending on the image or the object you are working with on in your composition. So now we have 110% for our scale. Now if I play back, so one thing I want to show you before I continue the playback is the full resolution that you can see here. So this full resolution shows that my composition is displaying at the highest quality. So if your composition in After Effects is displayed at the highest quality, then playing back is going to be slowed down. So if you want your playback or the preview of the work you have done within After Effects to be quick, then you have to reduce the resolution option that you can see here to either quarter, third, or half. If you leave it at full, it will be displaying at a very high quality but playback at a slow rate. So now I'm going to select the quarter option that is here so our playback can be fast. So now I'm going to play back again. Let me take it back and press space bar on the keyboard to play. So now you can see the keyframe we have just applied, the motion effect it has created for our layer. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to also set another keyframe for this layer, and that's the keyframe that we'll set for the position. So to quickly select the position property of this layer, you are going to hit P on the keyboard. So now the position property is showing. Now we want to set the keyframe for the position. Now what I want to do is I want to move forward a little bit and then set my keyframe for position. Start the first keyframe by clicking on the stopwatch toggle. Now the first keyframe is showing. Now I want to move forward a little bit after the second keyframe on scale to set the second keyframe for position. But I can't see the scale keyframe now. Now if you want to review the keyframes that you have on your layer, this is what to do. There's a shortcut for it. Instead for you to click on this drop down to start looking for all of the keyframe that you have set for your layer, you don't have to do that. While the arrow is closing up on the layer, select the layer you want to review the keyframes, then hit U on the keyboard. Press the letter U on the keyboard, and it will reveal all of the keyframes that you have set for your layer. So now we can see the keyframe we set for scale. So I want to move forward a little bit after the keyframe I set for scale. You can set your keyframe at any point, but preferably for this composition I'm working on, I want to set my position to be somewhere around here. So I'm not going to click on this stopwatch again. I'm going to click on add or remove keyframe that is here. And then I've successfully created the two keyframes that I need for the position property of my layer. Now what I want to do is I'm not going to touch the first keyframe because I love my composition to start from this point where everything is by default. The value of position and scale is showing by default, but I want to adjust the value on the second keyframe. So I'll go to the second keyframe now and then adjust the Y position of my position of my position properties. So like I told you earlier in the last class, I said position has X and Y axis. So that means the X is for you to move your object or your layer on the horizontal scale on the screen. So from the left to the right or from the right to the left. Then the Y position property will help you to move from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top. It depends on the movement you want to have. So now what I want to do is, now that I have my keyframe, now that I have the blue line on the keyframe, make sure this blue line is still on the keyframe. If you have it somewhere around here to set another keyframe for you, you don't want to do that. So make sure your blue line is on the keyframe that you want to adjust the value. Then click on the Y position of our position properties, then raise it up a little bit. Now the reason we are doing this is because we don't want the object to be hidden, the bottom side of the object to be hidden below the screen. So we want it to be fully revealed. That's why we are taking it up a little bit. So the next thing I want to do is to be able to blur this background. The reason we are going to blur this background is if I zoom in closely on the screen now by clicking on the top part of the screen where you can see the composition name. Now you can see that the background image is still showing the object we extracted. We don't want it to show up. You can see from here the hand of the boy. So we don't want it to show up. So I want to use this means to quickly blur the background so that people will not notice that we have extracted this image, this object from the background image. So now to apply a blur to the background, you have to select the layer first, then go to the effect you can see here, or use the effects and presets panel to choose your blur option. So if you can see now, there's a blur and sharpen option that you can see here. Click on the arrow close to it and you can see various blur effects under blur and sharpen. So the blur effect we want to use is fast box blur. So there are two ways of applying effects to your layer. The first one is to ensure that you have the layer selected first, then go to the effects and presets, then double click on the name of the effect, it will be automatically applied to your layer, as you can see here under effect controls. So let me remove it. Now the second method is to click, then drag and drop on your layer. You can see now that it's also applied. So now we want to adjust the value of this fast box blur. So the value we want to adjust, the property we want to adjust is the blur radius value. So I'm going to increase it to, let's say, 15. Okay, let me increase it a little bit to, let's say, 18. Okay, all right. So now that we have our background blurred out, I want to also quickly apply keyframe to this background to create something fancy on the background. But before I leave, I want to make sure I remove this black edge that you can see here. So to remove the black edge, click on the repeat edge pixels in fast box blur effect that you have added to your layer. And you can see that the black edges has been removed. All right, so now to continue, we are going to add the keyframe to this background. So the fancy thing we want to do with this background is we don't want the background to be black and white all through, as you can see now. We want the background to be colored, then later turn to black and white. So now I have moved this blue line to the beginning of the timeline. So what I want to do is set a keyframe for the tint. Set a keyframe for the tint that we have added to the background. So this is the tint. Now the keyframe we want to set is for the amount to tint. Now as you can see, the amount to tint is 100%. So it means it has turned our background to a complete tinted color that you can see now. So we want to make sure the background color starts from the default color that we have before and then tint to 100%. So click the stopwatch you can see here, or go to the background layer effects, then tint, open it up, and then click on the stopwatch. Now the first keyframe is set. Then I want to move forward a little bit, then add the second keyframe by clicking on this button you can see here. Okay, now at this point I want to go back to the first keyframe, because what we want is we want that background layout to be colored at first. So I'm going to adjust the value to 0, the amount to tint to 0, then hit enter on the keyboard. So as you can see now, it is colored at first. So let me just move the keyframe forward a little bit. I'll select both keyframes and then move it forward just a little bit. So now if we play back to preview what we have done, this is what we have now. So you can see the background at first is colored and suddenly became black and white. Let's just allow it to transit from color to black and white a little bit more. All right. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to apply a text layer to this composition we already have. So to apply a text layer, you need to go to the text tools at the top here, then click the text tool, or use the keyboard shortcut Command T or Control T on the Windows keyboard. So let's select it now, then let's type somewhere around here. So you can see that immediately I clicked on the screen, the text layer is already created. So what I want to do is I want to type now. So I want to type happy. All right. So once you are done typing the text, remember to click the selection tool to select the selection tool again to go out of the typing that you have just done. So now we already have a text that says happy, and this is the text layer. So what we want to do is we want to apply a track matte to this text. So this track matte we want to apply is like a mask, and the work of this track matte will reveal and also show this text at the same time while it's on the screen. So that's the function of a track matte. So the mask will help you to extract an object from from the layer you already have. Mask will also help you to reveal or show a layer. Then the pen tool will also help you to mask an object. So if you don't have a particular place you want to remove, you can use the pen tool to create a custom mask like we have done now. Now the track matte also will also do almost the same thing, but in this case it is different. So you'll see how it works now. So to apply a track matte to this text layer, we will go to the top here and select the menu that says layer. So under layer, you can see new, and then under new, go to solid, click on solid. You can see the keyboard shortcut is Command Y or Control Y on the Windows keyboard. So let's click solid now. And then you can see we can create the solid, we can adjust the solid settings. So the solid we want to create now, if you want, you can give it a name. If you don't want, you can just leave it that way. So I'm going to call it track matte. Then it's already taken from the composition frame size that we have, which is 1920 by 1080. That's not what I want, but it doesn't matter. So if you click OK now, this is what you will see. It's too big. I don't want it like this. Though I can use it, but it's too big. And you see the reason why I said it is too big. And the color of the solid layer we have just created doesn't matter in this case. So we are going to leave it like that. So once I have the track matte solid layer I've just created selected, I'll go back to the layer menu. Then you can see solid settings. Now you are not going to use new solid anymore. You are going to click on solid settings because we have created the solid already. So we are going to adjust the settings for it. So click on solid settings now. And then we are going to reduce the width to, let's say, about 700. And then the height to, let's say, about 400. And then you can change the color from here if you want, but we don't need it. So click OK. All right. So this is what we have. The reason we have reduced this solid layer to this size is because of our text. You can see that it's big enough to cover our text. So I'm going to put this solid layer I've just created on this side of the screen to make sure that it's a little bit covering up on this object that we have here, this layer that we have here. All right. So now I'm going to place this close to the extract layer. Then make sure that this fast previews that is here is turned off. That's also the cause of the pixelation that you can see on the screen. So locate the fast previews option, click on it, and then make sure it is off. Now it is adaptive resolution. Make sure it is off. Okay. So now if I move my solid layer around, you can see that that pixelation is not showing up again. So let's have our solid layer somewhere around the boy's side so that that's where we want our text to come out from. So I'm going to place the text also somewhere around here. Okay. Then I'll make sure to create a track matte that would hide the text from the screen and also reveal it at the time we want it. I'll make sure that the track matte solid is on top of the text layer. Now, the next thing we want to do is to come to this column where you can see TRK MAT that says track matte. So if you can't see this column in your After Effects composition area, then come to the toggle switches stroke modes. So let's say this is what you already have and you can't see the track matte column. So click on this toggle switches mode and then it will reveal it. So what we want to do now is on the happy text layer, I want to change the track matte and select alpha matte or alpha inverted matte depending on what you want to achieve. But in this case, what we want to achieve requires that we select the alpha inverted matte that you can see now. So immediately I selected the alpha inverted matte, our track matte is automatically hidden from the screen, and you can see that the eye icon from here is automatically triggered off. So our text layer is still showing, but this is how the track matte works. So I'll go to the point where I want the text to be revealed, which is somewhere around here. Okay, let's say somewhere around here. That's where I want the text to be revealed. Now, I'll select these two layers, the text layer and the track matte layer at the same time. So if you want to select, you hold Command or Control on the keyboard and you select multiple layers at a time. So now I'll drag these two layers to the blue line. But if you can't get the blue line precisely, what you should do is select the square, open square bracket on the keyboard. That's the bracket option that has a square shape. So select the first one and it will join the layers to the blue line like you can see now. So what I want to do now is to set keyframe for the text layer. So the keyframe I want to set is on the position of the text layer. So the keyframe I want to set now is for the position of the text layer. So I have the text layer selected and I will press P on the keyboard. And then I will start the animation toggle for the text layer. And then I'm going to also move forward a little bit, let's say somewhere around here. And then I'm going to also add another keyframe. And then I'll go to the first keyframe I have just created and then adjust the value of the X position by clicking and dragging to the left. So as you can see now, the track matte solid layer we have created is helping us to hide the text layer from the screen on the first keyframe. So if I play back now, let me return to the quarter resolution, then play back. As you can see, the text came from the hidden layer that we have here. So we also want to reposition the text layer that we have, selecting the track matte and the RP text layer at the same time, then reposition the layers under the extract layer. So we have this type of look. So the next thing I want to do right now is I want to make sure that this glow that you're seeing on the screen is not permanent on the screen. Then the white stroke also is not permanent on the screen. So I'll go to somewhere around 4 seconds. I'll go to somewhere around 4 seconds and then I'm going to select the extract layer and then I would go to the stroke effect under effect controls and then I'm going to click to adjust the start option that you can see here. So I'll set the first keyframe. You can also open up the effects properties from here too. Go to effects and then stroke and then you can see the start property that we have just set the first keyframe for. Then I will just go forward a little bit and set the second keyframe. Then I'll go to the first keyframe and then adjust the value to 100%. So now it will hide the white stroke that you have seen earlier. So if I play back now, let me move this keyframe forward a little bit. So if I play back now, you can see the stroke appeared on the screen by animating. But if you notice, there's a stroke that was also here that you cannot see. So to make sure that all of the stroke effect that you have added to your layer is revealing, come to the stroke effect that you have added and make sure that you have all masks selected. The reason you have the single mask animating is because we have mask 1 selected here. So make sure you have all masks selected, and if it's not all masks, if it is the mask 2 you want, then select mask 2. So now I'm going to select all mask, then I'll play back again. And you can see that all of the masks are revealed. So the next thing I want to also do is to make sure that the glow effect we have on the screen is not permanent on the screen. So immediately after the stroke effect has played out, before then, let's quickly remove the stroke effect so it's not permanent on the screen. So immediately after the last keyframe, let's go back to the last keyframe. Then the second option here that says end, click to enable the animation toggle. Then let's go forward a little bit. let's say somewhere around here, then add the second keyframe. So now that we have added the second keyframe, we are going to make sure that the end value, which is 100, is set to 0. So setting it to 0 would remove the stroke effect from the screen. So if I play back now, this is what you'll see. All right. So now we want to remove the glow. So to remove the glow effect, you have to open the drop down arrow on the extract layer, then scroll to the layer styles that you can see here. Open it up, then you can see the outer glow again. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that immediately, let me select the layer now and hit U on the keyboard to reveal just the keyframes only. Now, immediately after the stroke animation is played, just immediately after it, we want to create a glow effect. So the glow effect animation we want to create is on the layer style. So let me quickly open the layer style. Then on the layer style, we want to work on the opacity. So what I want to do now is set the first keyframe, then move forward a little bit, then set the second keyframe, then move forward a little bit, and then set a third keyframe. So on the first keyframe, the value should be set to 0, and then on the second keyframe, the value should be 75%, the default value. Then on the last keyframe, we are going to return it back to 0 again. Okay, so now if we play back, this is what we are going to have. Okay, so now what I want to do is to move these keyframes before the stroke effect. So here is the stroke effect that we have here. This is the stroke. Let me select and press U on the keyboard to reveal all the keyframes alone. So this is the stroke effect that we have. So I'm going to move it to before the stroke effect. So let me play back to see what we have. All right, as you can see that the text is not fully revealed. So we are going to quickly work on it. So select the text layer, then go to the last keyframe that we have, then go to the X position and then drag to the right side until it is well revealed. So the assignment I want to give you now is to create another text layer by duplicating this text layer you already have here, then change the name and make sure they both animate out at the same time. So we have come to the end of the class now, and you can also add a sound to what you have done. So let me quickly import a sound by going to the project panel and then select so you can drag the audio you have imported into the last layer in your composition area. So let me play back now to see what we already have. So I'm going to export this and then send to the Telegram group. So I'm going to export this and send to the Telegram group. So right now I'm going to give you the class code for today. Please keep it safe to yourself. And before then, I'll appreciate if you head over to our YouTube channel to watch the videos for the other classes we already have, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Then the playback for this today's class will also be available on YouTube. Please subscribe, like, comment on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much.